A World Cup victory was supposed to be a moment of pure joy. Ghana had just opened their tournament with a dramatic win over Panama. The Black Stars had fought until the final moments, and then, deep into stoppage time, Caleb Yarenki delivered the goal that sent Ghana fans into celebration. But for one young supporter, that celebration ended in tragedy. Sara Araba Tettey was only 26 years old, a practicing lawyer, a rising name in Ghana's legal community. And according to reports, she had been watching the match with friends when the final whistle sparked scenes of joy. Then, suddenly, everything changed. What began as a night of football emotion became a heartbreaking story that has stunned fans far beyond the stadium. This is the tragic story of a young Ghana supporter who died after celebrating her country's World Cup victory. Ghana's World Cup opener against Panama had already carried huge emotion. For the Black Stars, this was more than just the first match of a tournament. It was a chance to make a statement, to start strong, and to give supporters back home a moment they could hold on to. For much of the match, the tension was high. Panama battled hard. Ghana pushed forward. And as the game moved toward its final seconds, it looked as though the result might slip away. Then came the moment. In the 5th minute of stoppage time, Caleb Yarenki scored the decisive goal. Ghana were ahead, Panama were devastated, and Ghanaian fans everywhere erupted. Among those watching was Sara Araba Tettey. She was reportedly at a hostel in Bomso, a town about 90 miles northwest of Ghana's capital, Accra. She was with friends, following the match like millions of other fans, waiting, hoping, and then celebrating when Ghana finally found the breakthrough. The goal meant 3 points. It meant a winning start. It meant joy for the Black Stars. But shortly after the match, during the celebrations, Sara suddenly collapsed. The atmosphere changed instantly. The noise, the excitement, the celebration, all of it gave way to panic. According to reports, Sara suffered a cardiac arrest in the aftermath of the match. Those around her reacted quickly, and she was rushed to a nearby hospital. Doctors then tried to resuscitate her for around 45 minutes. But despite their efforts, Sara was pronounced dead shortly afterwards. She was just 26. Sara's death has sent shockwaves through Ghana's legal community. She was not only a football fan celebrating a national victory, she was also a young professional at the beginning of what many believed could be a bright career. According to local reports, Sara had been called to the bar in October last year. She worked for O&A Legal Consult, a firm based in Ghana's Ashanti region. That detail makes the story even more painful. She had only recently taken a major step in her professional life. She had years ahead of her, a career ahead of her, a future ahead of her. And then, after one of the most emotional moments of Ghana's World Cup campaign, that future was suddenly gone. For Ghana fans, the win over Panama should have been remembered only for the late goal, the relief, and the dream start to the tournament. Instead, it is now tied to the death of a young woman whose life ended far too soon. Football can create unforgettable emotion. It can bring people together in ways few other things can. One goal can make a nation roar. One final whistle can turn streets, homes, hostels, and viewing centers into scenes of celebration. But this tragedy is a reminder that behind every match are real people, real families, and real lives. And sometimes, even on football's biggest stage, joy and heartbreak can arrive almost at the same moment. The most devastating part of this story is the contrast. One moment, Ghana fans were celebrating a late World Cup winner. The next, friends were trying to process the collapse of someone who had been watching the same match, sharing the same joy, and living the same emotion. Sara Araba Tettey's name is now being remembered not just as a supporter, but as a young lawyer whose death has deeply affected those who knew her and those who are only now learning her story. And this is not the only tragic fan story connected to this World Cup. The report also notes that, just days earlier, a Scotland supporter died in Boston before getting the chance to see his beloved national team play at the tournament. Donnie Strathy, aged 76, had traveled to the United States to watch Scotland face Morocco in their second group stage match. It had reportedly been his dream to see Scotland at a World Cup, but he died suddenly over the weekend, before he could attend the match he had traveled for. In response, a poster circulating online encouraged Scotland fans to take part in a minute's applause during the 76th minute of Scotland's match against Morocco, in tribute to Donnie. Scotland head coach Steve Clarke also reacted to the sad news, offering his thoughts and condolences to Donnie's family, including his daughters and grandchildren. Two supporters, two very different lives. Two heartbreaking stories connected by the same tournament. One was a young Ghanaian lawyer celebrating a dramatic win. The other was a lifelong Scotland fan who had traveled with a dream. Both stories show how deeply football matters to people and how fragile life can be, even in moments that should be filled with happiness. For Ghana, the victory over Panama will still matter on the pitch. Caleb Urenki's late goal gave the Black Stars a narrow but important win. It gave the team momentum. It gave fans a reason to believe. But away from the pitch, that night will now be remembered with sadness, too. Sara Araba Tettey was 26 years old. She was a practicing lawyer. She had recently been called to the bar. She was watching her country play on the world stage. And after Ghana's winning moment, she collapsed and died. Her story has left many in shock, especially within Ghana's legal fraternity, where she was regarded as a promising young barrister. At a tournament built on passion, noise, flags, and celebration, this tragedy brings everything back to something much quieter, the human cost behind the headlines. Football gives us moments we never forget. Sometimes those moments are filled with glory. Sometimes they are filled with grief. And for Ghana fans, this World Cup victory will now carry both. Rest in peace, Sara Araba Tettey.